Her finger rested on the trigger. 4,800 meters away, the target had no idea what was coming. The bullet Sarah was about to fire would break the sound barrier and hit its mark before the target ever heard the shot. This single pull of the trigger would change everything. But we need to go back to the beginning of this story. 48 hours earlier. Which city in the world are you watching this video from today? It was Aero 530 at Thornfield Military Base in Colorado. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez sat in the briefing room alongside the other snipers from Alpha Team. At 27 years old, Sarah had achieved 47 confirmed kills over the past 5 years, but the mission she was about to receive would be the most challenging of her entire career. Colonel Richardson spread the map across the table. The operation was codenamed Silent Night, and their target zone was a mountainous region in northern Afghanistan. Sarah studied the map carefully. Rugged terrain, steep ridges, and miles of desolate landscape stretched across the tactical display. Enemy leader Kazem Hadrani had been hiding in this sector. According to intelligence reports, the following night at 0300 hours, he would be meeting with his top commanders to plan their next major offensive. The challenge was the terrain and distance. The nearest viable sniper position was approximately 3 miles from the target location. 3 miles. 4,800 meters. That was beyond the range of most sniper rifles. That was beyond what most considered humanly possible. The longest confirmed kill in military history was 3,540 meters. This mission would require exceeding that by over a kilometer. Hadrani had been responsible for the deaths of 200 American soldiers in the past 6 months. This might be their only chance to eliminate him. The target location was at 2,400 meters above sea level. The proposed sniper position was at 3,200 meters, providing a downward angle of approximately 15 degrees. The mathematics began forming in Sarah's mind. Bullet drop, wind compensation, atmospheric pressure, temperature variations. At that distance, even the rotation of the Earth would affect the trajectory. Weather conditions showed clear skies predicted, temperature around 35 degrees Fahrenheit, and wind speeds varying between 8 and 10, primarily from the northwest. The probability of success was less than 10%. This shot had never been attempted in combat conditions. But something her grandfather had told her echoed in her mind. He had been a sniper in Vietnam, and before he passed away, he had shared one piece of advice. In this line of work, it wasn't about the shot you could make. It was about the shot nobody else believed you could make. Sarah volunteered for the mission. If she didn't try, those 200 soldiers would have died for nothing. And if Hadrani executed his next plan, hundreds more would die. Colonel Richardson studied her face carefully before accepting her decision. If she missed, Hadrani would escape, and they would lose their best intelligence on his location. If she was detected, extraction would be nearly impossible. Sarah spent the rest of the morning in the ballistics lab with Chief Warrant Officer Davis, the unit's senior ballistics expert. They ran calculation after calculation, factoring in every possible variable. At 4,800 meters, her bullet would be in flight for approximately 6.2 seconds. In that time, the Earth would rotate 0.0043 degrees. That might seem insignificant, but at this distance, it could mean the difference between a hit and a miss by several feet. The Coriolis effect would be significant. She would need to aim 18 inches to the right to compensate for the Earth's rotation, assuming perfect conditions. They spent 3 hours running simulations. Sarah practiced the calculations until she could do them instinctively. Muzzle velocity, 3,300 feet per second. Bullet weight, 250 grains. All these calculations assumed perfect conditions. In the field, she would need to trust her instincts and make real-time adjustments. That afternoon, Sarah went to the firing range. She set up targets at maximum distance, 1,500 meters, the furthest the range allowed. It wasn't nearly the distance she would need for the actual mission, but it helped her get into the zone. Shot after shot, she hit center mass. Her breathing was controlled. her heart rate steady. This was what she had trained for her entire adult life. But as she prepared to leave the range, doubt crept into her mind. 4,800 meters. Could she really make a shot that no one in military history had ever made in combat? The helicopter ride to the insertion point took 2 hours. Sarah sat quietly, running through her mental checklist one final time. Her rifle, a custom 50 caliber Barrett M82A1 with specialized long-range optics, lay secured beside her. The pilot announced 5 minutes to drop zone. Sarah looked out the window at the rugged Afghan landscape below. Mountains stretched endlessly in every direction, their peaks covered in snow despite the season. The helicopter touched down briefly, just long enough for Sarah and her spotter, Corporal James Wilson, to grab their gear and jump out. The aircraft lifted off immediately, disappearing into the night. They had a 12-kilometer hike to reach the position. Sunrise was in 6 hours. They needed to be in position and camouflaged before first light. They began their trek through the mountainous terrain. Each step was calculated, each movement silent. They were now in enemy territory, and detection meant certain death. 4 hours later, they reached the designated sniper position, a rocky outcrop that provided excellent concealment and a clear line of sight to the target area. Sarah set up her rifle while Wilson established their hide position using natural camouflage. They would remain here for the next 20 hours, waiting for the target to appear. Wilson used his laser rangefinder. The range to target was 4,807 meters. Wind was currently 12 miles per hour from the northwest, gusting to 16. Sarah adjusted her scope accordingly. Through the powerful optics, she could barely make out the building where Hadrani was supposed to appear. It looked impossibly small, impossibly far away. 20 hours in a sniper hide is a test of both physical and mental endurance. Sarah and Wilson took turns maintaining watch while the other rested, though neither actually slept. As the sun began to set on the second day, Wilson received an update through his encrypted radio. Target confirmed to be en route. ETA 45 minutes. Sarah felt her adrenaline begin to rise. After all the preparation, all the calculations, the moment was finally approaching. Current wind speed was 14 miles per hour, gusting to 18. Direction holding steady from the northwest. Sarah made minute adjustments to her scope. At this distance, a 2 miles per hour change in wind speed could cause a miss by several feet. Atmospheric pressure was 29.85 inches of mercury. Temperature 37 degrees. She continued fine-tuning her calculations. Every detail mattered. Every variable could mean the difference between success and failure. Wilson reported movement at the target building. Sarah peered through her rifle scope. 2 figures had emerged from the building. But neither was the target. They waited. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Wilson suddenly spotted 3 vehicles approaching from the east. Sarah watched as a convoy of 3 trucks pulled up to the building. Several men got out, but they were too far away to identify clearly. Wilson studied the figures through his high-powered spotting scope, but couldn't confirm target identification due to shadows. Minutes ticked by like hours. Sarah controlled her breathing, keeping her heart rate steady. Her finger rested lightly on the trigger guard, ready but not engaged. Then Wilson whispered confirmation. Target identified, male, approximately 5'8", wearing dark jacket and white head wrap. That was their guy. Sarah shifted her scope slightly, acquiring the target. There he was, Kazim Hadrani, the man responsible for so much death and destruction. He was standing in the doorway of the building, completely unaware that he was being watched from nearly 3 miles away. Range was 4,000. Wind now 16 miles. Sarah made her final calculations. Bullet drop at this distance would be approximately 70 feet. She would have to aim well above the target to compensate. The wind would push the bullet approximately 8 feet to the left, so she would need to aim to the right. And the Coriolis effect required additional compensation. Hadrani began moving, walking toward the center of the courtyard. This was it. He was moving into the open, giving Sarah the clear shot she needed. But he wouldn't stay there long. Range was now 4,851 meters. Sarah's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. Time seemed to move in slow motion as she made her final adjustments. The crosshairs settled on a point approximately 10 feet above and 8 feet to the right of Hadrani's current position. She would lead the target slightly, anticipating his movement. Wind speed was holding at 16 miles per hour. Wilson confirmed she was clear to take the shot. Everything Sarah had trained for, everything she had learned, every calculation she had made, it all came down to this single moment. Her finger moved from the trigger guard to the trigger itself. She took a deep breath, let half of it out, and held. Her finger applied gentle pressure to the trigger. The rifle fired with a thunderous roar that echoed across the mountains. The 30 caliber bullet left the muzzle at 3,300 feet per second. Sarah immediately worked the bolt, chambering another round, though she knew there wouldn't be time for a follow-up shot. Wilson called out the time of flight, 6.2 seconds, starting his stopwatch. The bullet arced through the thin mountain air, fighting against gravity, wind, and atmospheric resistance. At this altitude, the air was thinner, which meant less resistance, but also less predictable wind patterns. 4,800 meters away, Hadrani continued walking across the courtyard, completely oblivious to the fact that a piece of metal was racing toward him at nearly 3 times the speed of sound. The bullet reached the apex of its trajectory and began its downward arc. Sarah kept her eye on the scope, watching the target through the crosshairs. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The distance was so great that even with her powerful scope, Sarah couldn't immediately see the result. Then Wilson's voice came through, filled with amazement. Target down. Confirmed hit. Target was down. Sarah couldn't believe it. She had done it. She had made a shot that military experts had said was impossible. Through her scope, she could see chaos erupting around the target building. Guards were running in all directions, trying to figure out where the shot had come from. Some were taking cover, others were scanning the horizons with binoculars. Wilson indicated it was time to go. They would be looking for them now, but Sarah remained frozen, staring through her scope at what she had accomplished. 4,851 meters. A shot that would rewrite the record books. A shot that would save countless American lives. The next several hours were a blur of careful movement and tactical retreats. Sarah and Wilson had to cover 12 kilometers of hostile territory to reach their extraction point, all while avoiding enemy patrols that were now actively searching for them. They moved only during darkness, hiding during daylight hours. The shot had been successful, but now came the equally challenging task of getting home alive. During their second night of movement, Wilson radioed for extraction. Package delivered successfully. Extraction team was en route to their location. ETA 4 hours. They reached the extraction point just as the sun was beginning to rise. The sound of helicopter rotors in the distance was the most beautiful sound Sarah had ever heard. As the transport helicopter touched down, Sarah took one last look back toward the mountains where she had made her impossible shot. Somewhere in those peaks, 4,851 meters away, military history had been made. Back at base, the mission's success was quickly confirmed through multiple intelligence channels. Kazim Hadrani was dead, and his entire organization was in chaos. The planned offensive that would have cost hundreds of American lives had been canceled. 3 days after the mission, Colonel Richardson called Sarah into his office. The shot had been officially confirmed and verified. 4,051 meters. That was the longest confirmed kill shot in military history. The Pentagon wanted to classify the details of this mission. The techniques and equipment she had used would remain restricted information. Sarah understood the implications. She had proven that engagements at distances previously thought impossible were now within the realm of possibility. That changed the entire nature of long-range precision warfare. But she believed this didn't change anything fundamental. This was still about training, preparation, and a little bit of luck. The fundamentals of marksmanship remained the same. The official record of Sarah's shot remains classified to this day. In public military records, the longest confirmed sniper kill is still listed at 3,540 meters. But among the elite sniper community, the story of the impossible shot at 4,851 meters has become legend. Sarah continued her military service for another 3 years before retiring to become a civilian marksmanship instructor. She never spoke publicly about the shot, honoring the classification requirements, but sometimes, late at night at the training facility, when a young student would ask about the limits of long-range shooting, Sarah would smile and say there were no limits, only the ones you place on yourself. The mathematics of that shot, the calculations for bullet drop, wind drift, Coriolis effect, and atmospheric conditions at nearly 3 miles became the foundation for advanced, long-range shooting curricula at military sniper schools around the world. And somewhere in the mountains of Afghanistan, 4,851 meters away from a rocky outcrop that looks like 1,000 others, stands a building where military history was changed by a single impossible shot that no one ever heard coming. The target never even heard the sound.